Where's Durham? It's the question a lot of people are asking right now. Now, a new Wall Street Journal report is shedding light on what Durham might be up to. And that brings us to story number 3, holding them accountable. Joining us to discuss, former Trump 2016 foreign policy advisor and Newsmax contributor, George Papadopoulos. So, George, I want to first welcome the program, but there's this crack reporting in the AP. And I want to read one of the lines. It says, Durham is also expected to complete a report at some point. Thanks.
Well, I think it's great to be with you, Carl. And I think what really this signifies is a dramatic escalation of Durham's probe. We can't forget, and we have to actually go back a bit in history because so much has been going on over the last couple of years that people have been really understanding how this probe has actually metastasized or evolved. In the fall of 2019, John Durham and Attorney General Barr traveled to Italy, not to Russia, but to Italy, a United States ally in a NATO country, to learn about this infamous professor, this Joseph Mifsud person who was interacting with me abroad. And Bob Mueller and Jim Comey suggested that he was the linchpin of Mueller's probe in Crossfire Hurricane. Once Durham learned the truth about this infamous character, his probe became criminal. A couple months after that, the IG released a report in which John Durham and Attorney General Barr essentially refuted the key findings of the IG in December of 2020. We then had the first indictment of this Kevin Kleinsmith, this FBI attorney, who was falsifying documents about myself, Carter Page, Michael Flynn, and others. And right before the election, I know a lot of people were tough on Attorney General Barr, but right before the election, that's when Barr actually appointed Durham to be special counsel, because I believe Durham has the goods. He has a significant criminal investigation on his hands, has been going on for over 2 years, and Barr needed to appoint him special counsel, so that would have made Biden's life impossible. It basically would have made it impossible for him to fire Durham. So I'm not as interested in the report that he's apparently going to produce as these indictments, which the Wall Street Journal reviewed and presented to the American public. To convene a grand jury and to hear evidence of a criminal nature against various FBI officials is unprecedented in this country. I believe he's after the bigger fish. He's not going to go after these low-level operatives, and people like Comey are likely in his sights.
I mean, I would love to see someone like Comey, end up behind bars. But, to what you were just talking about, the Wall Street Journal, it describes what Durham might be doing. Quote, Mr. Durham has been examining potential criminal charges against several lower-level Federal Bureau of Investigation employees and people who aren't in government. So, if they're doing this, and we're not going to see these big fish fry and things like that, like there's a lot of people out there, conservative commentators, guys you know very well, like Dan Bongino, who have covered this and been right on it on every turn. A lot of their predictions are this: don't get your hopes up for this.
Look, I dealt, unfortunately, with a lot of other Americans with the Mueller investigation. And I understand how these types of pseudo investigations or real investigations like Durham's work is. What they're trying to do is they're not trying to go after people who are in an orbit or low-level players in the grand scheme. They're going after the big fish. Mueller was going after Trump. He wasn't going after General Flynn. He wasn't going after George Papadopoulos or Paul Manafort. The end target was Donald Trump, and to basically overthrow his presidency. Yeah. I don't think John Durham is going after low-level fish like the Wall Street Journal reported after 2 years in which he's already indicted an FBI lawyer, because essentially this is an individual who's over 70 years old. He has a reputable reputation as a nonpartisan investigator who's been respected by both Democrats and Republicans, and he's not going to politicize his investigation for over 2 years simply to go after some low-level operatives that no one's ever heard of. I think these are going to be used to target the head of the FBI, which was running this illicit investigation against the Trump campaign, which then essentially turned our country upside down for over 2 years, affected the last midterms, and likely the last presidential election. So what Mueller and Comey did not only affect President Trump, it affected this entire country. Millions of Americans in this country want justice and accountability. And I think Durham, with these small hints we are getting, finally, after 2 years, is onto something, but the low-level players are not the end game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is someone that, and I don't want to give Biden credit for anything, but like, you can't fire guys like these without significant political fallout. I really hope the investigation is, able to continue unmolested, because I think it's important for people like you and I to at least see him get to the bottom. And look, if he finds nothing, great. But if he does find something, and the Justice Department turns it over, and is the Justice Department actually going to prosecute anything, you think?
Well, that's why what I think Attorney General Barr did was so important, and why I'm one of actually Barr's few supporters left, I guess, in the Republican Party, because I understand that he did put his neck out there to appoint John Durham as a special counsel a month or so before the election, because before that, basically what John Durham was doing was investigating in a criminal matter, but once Biden ascended to the Oval Office, as we have seen throughout history, the president can fire or hire various DAs around the country. Mm-hmm. And he only kept two particular DAs. The one that's apparently investigating his son, Hunter Biden, in Connecticut over various tax fraud and criminal charges, and John Durham. So now with John Durham being a special counsel, he has the same designation as Robert Mueller did for those long, arduous 2 years that threw our country in turmoil over absolutely nothing but an attempted coup against President Trump. So I think the political risk for President Biden, or even Attorney General Garland, to attempt to obstruct or to hinder an active criminal investigation will simply be far too risky and politically not expedient for them at this point, considering all the other various issues that President Biden is facing, whether it's China, inflation, the economy, the border, Afghanistan. The last thing he needs right now is an obstruction charge by trying to fire the special counsel, looking into potentially him or his own son.
Yeah, tick-tock, tick-tock. We hope to see it soon. George Papadopoulos, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Carl.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.